been a busy day already here on the prairie, and we've got a lot of things going on. I wanted to share with you one of the things that was important to me in doing this video series is keeping it real. And sometimes in a real kitchen, you're gonna end up with a lot of extra sourdough. So I had really planned on making bread yesterday and I didn't ever get that done. So when I got up this morning, I had 3 cups of this mini starter that I had not used from yesterday. It was fed through the day. It was fed, I guess the last time was just about lunchtime yesterday because I was gonna make the bread in the afternoon. So I didn't get that done. And so now I have this extra starter and I need to use this up. And I'm not gonna make bread this morning because I need to use fresh starter. So this is kind of like my discard. And I wanted to share with you one of the ways that you can use a lot of starter really quickly. And it's using one of the recipes that's already up. And that is the pancake and waffle, the classic pancake and waffle recipe. This will take us no time at all. I've been making a few already here this morning, and I wanted to make this with you to show you how quickly you can use them up, and you can have some freezer meals for later on. The recipe called for 1 cup of starter and 1 egg. We're gonna use 3 cups of starter, so we're adding 3 eggs to our bowl. We're gonna mix those in. It also called for 2 tablespoons of sugar. You could use honey, you can use maple syrup, you can use whatever you like. I actually had some coconut sugar here, so we're gonna use that, and that's 6 tablespoons since the original recipe called for 2. And we're gonna use a little salt. The recipe calls for a 1/4 teaspoon. We're gonna use 3/4 of a teaspoon. Okay, so to our bowl of starter, we have added eggs, sugar, and salt. Now, there's butter also called for, and it's optional. I've made these without butter. If you're following a low-fat lifestyle or you'd like for this meal to be low-fat, then this meal would be perfectly on plan if you do Trim Healthy Mama, that all of these grains have been completely soured. They are ready to eat. You do not have to add butter, but if you don't add butter to your batter, be sure you grease your waffle iron well or they will stick. So today we are going to add a little bit of butter. It only needs 3 tablespoons. Now this is the reason that I wanted to show you this on a video. The thing about sourdough waffles and pancakes, this type, classic type, is that all of your lift in the batter comes from the baking soda. So if you added the baking soda to the whole bowl would rise, but before you could get all of your pancakes or waffles cooked, that batter would fall and you would lose the fluffiness of them. So you have to mix it just a little bit at a time, but that is super easy. We're gonna measure out, just pouring 1 cup of our batter. All right, and I know my waffle iron will hold about a cup, so that's all I am putting in there. We're going to mix this 1/4 teaspoon of soda with just a teaspoon or so of water, just a little bit. We're gonna mix that up so it kind of dissolves. And we're gonna pour that in to our little measuring cup. And I'm gonna let y'all watch because, okay, so it's about halfway full. So I'm gonna stir this in right quick. So we had 1 cup and it's already risen up to more than 1.5 cups just from the lift of the soda. So whenever you do that, you wanna make sure that your griddle is ready so you can get those waffles going right away. Griddle is hot and we're gonna pour this on and scrape that in there. And I'm gonna try to smooth it out. All right. And I set these, if I'm making them for the freezer, I turn it down just a hair. If I'm making them to eat right away, then I make them crispy and brown. But If I'm making them from the freezer, they're a little bit on the soft side, so that when we thaw them and toast them, they come out crispy and ready for the table. So we're gonna have a lot of pancakes ready for the freezer, and I'm really excited about that. So while those are cooking, I wanna show you something else. The kind of loaf that we had cut. It was 100% whole grain. It used my Max starter, which is a whole grain starter. It used whole grain flours. So you have a loaf that is a little bit rustic looking, a little bit loose. I could have probably worked the dough a little bit more and gotten it a little bit smoother, but it was delicious and no one complained about that for supper. This is the loaf that we made with the mini starter. And I kneaded it a little bit more, and I used all unbleached flour. So you have a much lighter loaf. This one has a beautiful dark on the top from where we baked it. It has lovely browning, and it's a little bit softer. And when this one came out of the oven, I brushed the crust with a little butter. So you have a little bit different look to the top of it. A really pretty little loaf of bread for a quick bread. And finally, I took one recipe, the same recipe that would make 2 of these round loaves. I put the whole recipe into a loaf pan, and I turned the heat down to 350, and I baked it for about an hour and maybe 10 minutes. You'll have to watch it because it takes a while to get done, and it doesn't brown the same way as these others, but my kids love this bread made in a loaf form, and it tends to stay a little bit fresher longer. So 2 different ways. If we're gonna eat it right away, I just do these, but sometimes I like to have one of these in the freezer. You can take it out at night, and by breakfast it's thawed and ready for you to use. So this is a little bit of sourdough real life in a kitchen. I wanted to share that with you. While we were looking at the bread, our waffle has been cooking. It is almost done, and so, oh, there it is. While it's cooking, then you just continue the same process of repeating that. So we would pour 1 cup of our pre-mixed batter into our measuring cup. We would whisk that together with just that 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda mixed with water. And then you would bake the next batch. And you've got light and fluffy waffles that you can cool and have ready for the freezer, so that maybe this weekend or on a day when you just don't want to cook breakfast, or maybe an evening when you get busy all day and you'd like to have supper on the table in a hurry, you can grab those waffles, toast them, and everybody will be happy campers at your house. I am going to feed our starters this morning. Max is just, I mean, guys, he's doing so good. He's already risen up. It's been now about 14 or 15 hours since they were fed, so it's been a little while. I'm a little late, but it's risen up and it's falling back down a little bit. You can tell that because it's compacted. The bubbles are compacted here, so you can tell that it's kind of gone down, but the bubbles are still looser at the bottom. Looks good. We're gonna continue to feed it. We're gonna remove half, so we may have more pancakes to make or something else yummy, but we're gonna remove half of this, and we're gonna use a 1/2 cup of whole grain flour and about a 1/4 cup of water. Keep it thick and keep it stirred, and then set it aside. It'll be ready for this evening. Minnie is looking good as well. She rose all the way to the top, so that was doubled, and then she fell back down. One of the things that I'm going to do today is I'm going to thicken this starter up just a little bit when I feed her this morning, because we are going to get ready to make some bread with this, and I want her a little bit thicker. So when I feed her today, I'm going to remove half of this, 1 cup of the starter, and I'm going to feed her 1 cup of flour, unbleached flour, but then only about 3/4 of a cup of water, and that will get her a little bit thicker. So there's exciting things on the horizon with our sourdough adventures. I hope y'all have a wonderful day, and we're gonna hear a little bit more from my sister in this little clip, and then I'll talk with y'all this evening.
This Clint used to this one this baby, I guess that's 3.0.
Yes.
Well, we didn't even talk about 2.0.
No.
Okay, 2.0 is in the fridge. So just in case.
And that was at about, okay, so this one is about 3 weeks old. She started her first starter about 3 weeks ago. And then at about 10 days, when she began to notice a really good sourdough flavor, a little bit more fermentation going on, not just yeastiness, but actual fermentation, then she put Clint 2.0, pulled off her discard, but instead of using it to bake with or throwing it away, she put it in the fridge.
Yes. So it's on ice, and if I happen to screw up 1.0, I got 2.0 as a backup.
There you go.
And I've given away several of the starter for other friends of mine who've seen my sourdough saga on Facebook and have decided.
Make your mouth water. That pumpkin chocolate chip bread, that was some beautiful bread. Really?
That was the banana nut. That was the banana chocolate chip.
Banana chocolate chip.
It was
really, really beautiful.
So tall. It's
It
like
was.
the tallest bread I've ever made.
I saved a picture of it, so I'll show y'all later.
So I do have a little surprise for you.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, I get a surprise.
You do. This is a recipe that is much like it's a cookie bar, but it's got chocolate chips and
You can't go wrong with that.
caramel bits.
Oh my goodness.
And I put.
And this is all sourdough too? This is made with sourdough?
It's a recipe that I've had forever, and
Oh, so it's another one that you've just added your sourdough to.
Because
now,
I don't
tell
like
them
throwing
how
it
you
away.
do that to a regular recipe. Any recipe that you've got for breads, muffins,
cookie bars.
cookie bars.
I put it in with the liquid ingredients. So
That's delicious.
isn't it good?
It's very good.
And this one's a lot like a candy bar kind of a flavor. So it's got caramel and chocolate and
Oh yeah, it's really good.
so there you go. I am not
But now that I've eaten it on the camera, we have to have the recipe.
I can do that.
Okay.
But I have been because it's been all about using what's in the pantry. And I had stocked up on cake mixes when they were on sale. I have done that too. I have done used just a regular box cake mix right according to the directions, and added the sourdough with the liquid ingredients. And I don't love cake mix cakes, but at least not plain. You know, they need to be va-va-voomed in some fashion. And so
Suzanne doesn't do anything just normal. It's got to be a little bit more.
va-va-voom. Making magic happen.
Absolutely.
So I just have done cake mix cakes and put that sourdough in it, and y'all, it really balances out that oversweet flavor.
Well, that's what I was going to say
that
about
box
this.
cake mix.
This has a caramely, it's got the chocolate, but the cookie itself is not overly sweet, so it really balances nicely.
And like I say, flour's been weird. This year haven't been able to get all-purpose all the time. So
Or yeast.
Yeah, that too.
So this solves that problem.
Yeah, Clint 3.0.
That's right.
Good evening. I'm trying to get supper on the table here, so I'm putting a little bit of our sourdough starter to good use, making some sourdough tortillas. I will have that recipe for you. They're quick, they're easy. It'll get you some bread on the table in a hurry, and they are really delicious. So that's what I'm working on over here. I've got some pre-rolled a little bit, and I've got some over here that haven't been rolled the first time yet. But that's what I'm working on. So I'm not going to feed my starter with you, but I did want us to talk about it just a second. I'm also griddling some over here, so hang on. All right, so Max is good. He's risen again and fallen down. We're gonna do exactly the same thing. We're just gonna remove half, and we're gonna feed him 60 grams of each. Whole grain flour and water. That's a half a cup of flour, a quarter cup of water. So that's it, and then we'll have a little bit of starter from him to do something with. These guys are getting really close to being able to bake bread. We're gonna give them another day or so, but they're getting close. Minnie is doing great. She held, look at how much, can you see? She really held her rise today after we thickened that up this morning. So she did go all the way to the top and she did fall, but look how much better she held her rise than, I mean, she has been falling all the way down to the line. So a little bit thicker is good. So if you notice your starter collapsing, go ahead and thicken that up a little and you'll get a lot better lift, and it'll hold that lift better than before. Don't forget to feed your mini starter tonight. Pull out about half of her that you can use for baking, and then feed her 1 cup of unbleached flour and 3/4 cup of water. If you think she's getting a little thick, you can bump that up with a tablespoon or 2. But let's keep her on the thicker side so that she'll be ready to bake bread for us on Thursday. I hope y'all have a great evening. It is the end of day 6, almost a week. On day 8, we'll make bread. So hang in there one more day, but you've got lots of goodies to make in the meantime. Have a blessed evening.